Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. We are continuing with the Bhagavad Gita as it is by Srila Prabhupada, chapter 13, Nature, Enjoyer, and Consciousness, text number 18. I'll recite in Sanskrit and then read the translation by Srila Prabhupada. Jyoti shamapi tajyotis tamasaha param uchyate jnanam neyam jnanagamyam hridi sarvasya vishishtitam. Translation by Srila Prabhupada. He is the source of light in all luminous objects. He is beyond the darkness of matter and is unmanifested. He is knowledge. He is the object of knowledge and he is the goal of knowledge. He is situated in everyone's heart. Om Agyanatimirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. First of all, thank you all for joining and really appreciate it. We are continuing with chapter 13, which is kind of technical, but at least we are getting the knowledge about the Supreme Lord who is situated in our hearts as the Supersoul. So today's few verses that we will do is going to give us knowledge so that we can understand who is qualified to understand the Supersoul. Now, from these different chapters of this Bhagavad Gita, the spiritual science, we have learned that Krishna, the Supreme Lord, is in everyone's heart, every living entity's heart, not just human beings, but every living entity, be it birds, aquatics, animals, whoever, or humans. So now that we know that he is within our heart as Supersoul, now that is just to know it theoretically that, okay, there is God in the heart. But how do we understand, how do we realize that, which is the practical aspect of it? So today we will learn, Krishna will give us knowledge about who is qualified to understand the Lord in the heart as a Supersoul. So in this verse that I read just now in Sanskrit, Srila Prabhupada explains about the glories of the Supersoul. We have been hearing about the glories of the Supersoul in the heart, but now he's giving more knowledge to Arjuna. He says he is the source of light. He is beyond darkness. A very nice example we can see is whenever there is sunlight, when it's bright and sunny, there is no darkness. Why? Because the sun is present. But as soon as the sun sets, there is no more sun, then it becomes dark. Like right now in Atlanta, it is all dark. So similarly, whenever there is Krishna, there is light, which means there is knowledge. And as soon as Krishna is not there, there is darkness, which is ignorance. Then in this verse, he says he's unmanifested and he is knowledge. Krishna is knowledge and he's the object of knowledge and he's also the goal of knowledge. Now in chapter 15, we will see a very beautiful verse, which is my favorite verse in chapter 15, verse 15, where in Sanskrit it says, Sarvasya chaham hridi sanivishto matah smritir jnanam apohanam cha vedescha sarver aham eva vedyo vedantakrit vedavid eva chaham. What does that mean in English? It means Krishna says, I'm situated in everyone's heart as the Supersoul. And he says, from me, that's from Krishna, comes remembrance, knowledge, and forgetfulness. So we need to choose. He's there in our heart. And then we make a choice. Do we want to remember him? Do we want to forget him? Do we want his knowledge? Based on our choice, he is going to help us in that direction. Then he says, Vedescha sarver aham eva vedyo, Vedantakrit vedavid eva chaham. Krishna says, I am the compiler of the Vedas, the Vedas, which is the biggest biggest, book of knowledge. I mean, it's so vast that even if we spend our whole lifetime trying to study it, we still cannot complete it. So Krishna says, I am the compiler of the Vedas. And he says, what is the object and goal of the Vedas? He says, I am to be known from the Vedas. So that is what we learn in today's verse, where Krishna says, I'm the object, I'm also the goal of knowledge. So the whole purpose of understanding Bhagavad Gita, or the purpose of understanding the Vedic scriptures, is to understand God, to understand Supreme Lord Sri Krishna. That is what he's trying to say. In fact, he even tells Arjuna, Hideshi Arjunas Tishtati. That means he says, Arjuna, I am situated in the heart. Now one may say, what is the purpose of Supersoul in the heart? Is it that he has no other work to do? He has all the time in the world. He doesn't know what to do. So he said, okay, let me just go and situate myself in everyone's heart. No, he is self-satisfied. That's why he's called Atmaram. But he is so compassionate, just like parents, right? The children may not need the parents. They may feel, I can do everything myself. I don't need my parents. But the parents are still concerned. They still care for the children, and they want to guide them. They want to show them the right way. That is the, purpose of the parents. So here, Krishna, being our Supreme Father, he is there in our heart so he can guide us. He can, show us the way. He can tell us what is right, what is wrong. We all must have noticed sometimes when we try to do something, there's something within the heart that tells us, this is not right, don't do it. Who is that? That is the super soul guiding us. He's the witness, he's the controller, he's the sanctioner, he's everything. So out of great compassion, he travels with us in our hearts from one body to another, just to guide us and show us the way. So here in this verse, he says, he's the source of light in the sun, in the moon, in the stars. It is said in the early chapters of the Bhagavad Gita, we read about the spiritual world. According to the Vedic scriptures, the whole creation is divided into two parts. 3/4 of the whole creation is the spiritual world, and only 1/4 is this material world. So imagine the spiritual world is 3 times bigger than this material world. And so Krishna explains to Arjuna that in the spiritual world, which is called Chintamani Dham, there is no electricity, there's no light. So one may say, oh, is it dark over there? No, it's very effulgent, it's very bright, because that effulgence is coming from the body of Krishna. That is his spiritual effulgence that is coming out, and the whole spiritual world gets lit by that light. And that is what Krishna is saying. He is the source of the light in the sun, in the moon, and also in the stars. And the whole spiritual world lights up with his effulgence, which is called Brahma Jyoti also. There is no need for, electricity like for us. Like you can see from, my video, all the lights are on because it's dark. Without the lights, I can't see, y'all can't see, it's going to be all dark. So here we can see that in this material world, the sun and the moon, they are required for us because our vision is material. We cannot, we don't have spiritual vision. So for us, we need this light. But Krishna says, I am that light. You see? Now one may say, it's so difficult to understand the spiritual world. We don't know what it looks like, and it's so far, far away, right? Krishna Loka, where Krishna resides, is so far, far away. But he is there within our heart. And the moment we choose to become self-realized, see, the whole purpose of this Bhagavad Gita is to bring us to the platform of self-realization. Self means myself, not this body, but the spirit soul. Realization, to realize. And that's our topic for today, not only to realize ourselves, but to realize the super soul within the heart, the supreme Lord who's situated within the heart. And this Bhagavad Gita is teaching us, the complete yoga ladder, how from karma yoga to jnana yoga, ashtanga yoga, and then finally to bhakti yoga, which is devotional service to the Lord. And this knowledge is transcendental. That's why Krishna in 4th chapter, he calls it spiritual science. Imam vivashvate yogam proktavan aham avyayam. He says, I gave this knowledge, this spiritual science, to the sun god Vivaswan 120 million years ago. So this knowledge of the Bhagavad Gita is transcendental. And if one really wants to understand, then we would need a lot of sincerity and seriousness. Just like anything we want to pursue in this material world, we got to be sincere and we got to be serious about whatever goal we would want to attain. Then only we will be successful. So similarly, if we decide that yes, I would like to become self-realized, I would like to know who I really am. I am not this body. I am the spirit soul. Okay, I learned that, but how do I realize that? This is what Bhagavad Gita is teaching us. And main thing is, are we ready to accept it? Our mind plays tricks with us. So if, we get some knowledge, then the mind is going to say, I don't like it, or I like it, or whatever. But if we go through the proper channel, say, for instance, like when I was little, I used to love to dance, the classical Indian classical dancing. So my mother sent me to a teacher, which is the right thing to do, because I can't just, move my hands around and try to learn, classical dancing. No, that's not possible. I have to go to a teacher, a guru, a certified teacher who already knows, has experience, and can teach me. Similarly, if we want to become self-realized, if we want to understand the super soul within the heart, then we need to approach a certified Bhagavad Gita teacher so that we can understand, and we can also understand what is the purpose of life. Most people, they have no idea what this life is all about, who we are, where have we come from, what are we doing in this material world. Is it that our life is all about eat, sleep, and be merry, or just go to work or get married and have children? Is this all that there is to this life? Most people have no idea. They just work like a machine, wake up in the morning, breakfast, office, come back, maybe a little bit of entertainment, whatever, dinner, go back to sleep, and wake up, the whole thing, just going round and round and round. But an intelligent person, someone who's using the philosophical intelligence, will inquire. So here, Krishna is trying to tell us that he is there in the heart as a super soul. He is there to guide us. He's there to show us the way how to break the cycle. The cycle of birth, disease, old age, and death. Then again, birth, disease, old age, and death. So an intelligent person would want to come out of this cycle and go to a place where there is permanent happiness, where there is no birth, no death. There is, like permanent happiness, permanent satisfaction, permanent bliss. There is no such thing as today I'm happy and tomorrow I'm no longer happy. No, permanent happiness. And that is what this Bhagavad Gita is teaching us. In the very next verse, verse number 19, Krishna says that only those who are devoted to me, they will understand this knowledge. And what will be the result of attaining this knowledge? He says, then that devotee of mine will reach my spiritual world. So now a question arises, am I interested in going to the spiritual world, Or am I happy over here? Am I happy in my life? Am I always happy in my life and there is no misery? So then fine. But if I feel that, yes, I'm getting old, you can see I am really old. Many times I am diseased and I know death is sure to happen, but I want to break this cycle. I want to go to a place where there is no more birth or no more death. So Krishna is saying that if one wants to get liberated, one wants to become free from this bondage of birth and death, then the best thing is to qualify ourselves, to understand ourselves and the spirit soul, to understand the super soul within the heart with the help of knowledge under the guidance of a teacher. Then we will be able to go back to the spiritual world. Now, Krishna, he has described about his body, it is Sat Chit Ananda Vigraha. Vigraha means form. His form is Sat Chit Anand, means it is eternal, full of knowledge and full of bliss. Because his body is spiritual, it is transcendental. He is explained to us about who we are. He's explained to us about the super soul. He has explained to us about knowledge. And in fact, he also explained to us who is, like, this body is the field of activity. If some of you who were there for the previous verses, you would have heard Krishna says that this body is a field of activities. And who is the knower of this field of activities? It is the spirit soul, which is us. And who is knowable? That is Krishna, the Supreme Lord. And what is the process of knowing? That is called realized knowledge, which is called Vijnana. Now, to understand all this, this is all technical, but how do we practically understand this? That is the $1 million question. It's simple. Krishna says, if one performs undeviated, unmotivated, uninterrupted devotional service to me, that person will understand this knowledge. There's a very beautiful Sanskrit verse in Bhagavad Gita, which we learned in chapter 10, where Krishna says, Tesham satata yuktana bhajatam priti purvakam dadami buddhi yogam. Buddhi means intelligence. So he says, he gives the intelligence. Now here we are not talking about academic knowledge. We are not talking about material intelligence, to understand material things. Here we are talking about the Supreme Lord. So that is transcendental. So we need that transcendental intelligence to understand the super soul within the heart. And he says he will give the intelligence, his mercy, to someone who worships him with love and devotion. These are the two requirements, which means indirectly or directly, he's telling Arjuna, please perform devotional service unto me, that is unto Krishna. Then we will be able to realize, or we will be able to come to the platform of self-realization. Otherwise, it's impossible. Just like I remember a very nice example my husband gives is, supposing, now this is in olden days, many, maybe a few decades ago, whenever we had to, I'm not very computer savvy, but I still try to give the example. He used to say that, whenever we had to load Windows on our computer, in those days, there used to be many discs, CDs that we had to put in disc number 1, number 2, number 3, like that, 5 or 6 discs. Now there's a process to install Windows. I cannot first put disk number 3 and then say, oh, I feel like putting disk number 5 now, and now I want to put 1. No, there is a process. We have to go sequentially, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Similarly, there is a process that we need to follow if we want to become self-realized. Now, what is that process? Krishna tells us that we need to, first of all, purify the heart. Krishna is there in the heart as Super Soul, but we are not able to realize him because there is impurity in the heart. What are those impurities? Lust, anger, greed, pride, envy, etc. Now, for some, it may be in small degree. For some, it may be in large degree. For some, it may be just anger. For some, it may be just greed, or it may be a mixture of all these. So all these need to be cleansed out from the heart. See, I give the example even last week, that if there is a mirror and that mirror is covered with dirt or dust, I can't see myself. The first thing I need to do is clean out all that dust or dirt from the mirror. Then I will be able to see myself clearly. Similarly, the heart is like a mirror, which has all these impurities which need to be cleansed. And the best and the most simple process to remove that dirt is to do mantra meditation, which we do after every class. We chant the holy names. And what is the result? The holy names are so powerful. This mantra, especially the Maha Mantra, is so powerful that those sound vibrations, when they go in the ears, they go straight to the heart. And they start cleaning the heart, cleansing the heart of all the dirt. So when we do mantra meditation, then we start gradually becoming pure and also realize, the super soul within the heart. So what is the qualification? Who can understand? Someone who follows this process. And Krishna is saying it has to be unalloyed devotional service, which means it should not be mixed. Sometimes what happens is we mix spirituality with materialism. For instance, let me give you an example that, okay, I am going to chant the holy names, but I would want the Supreme Lord to give me this, this, and this. It's kind of a business with the Lord, that I do this for you and you do this for me. No, it has to be pure, unalloyed. There should be nothing mixed in it. There should be no material desires attached to it or anything. It is just done out of pure love for the Supreme Lord. Then this knowledge that we are learning will take us to that stage of understanding and realization, and then we will start becoming self-realized. Right now, most people are in material consciousness, which means everything is about material things, whether it is some possessions, material possessions. Now, all these things we do need. We do need a job. We do, need to get married, have a family, relatives, friends, social life, whatever. Yes, sure. All that is okay. But the whole life should not be just that. It has to be balanced out with spirituality also. You see, so what happens when we are performing activities, if we can dovetail them towards spirituality, if we can dovetail our activities towards Krishna's service, devotional service, then what will happen? Our activities also will become purified. Let me give you an example, a very, very simple example. We all need to eat every day. We all like to eat every day. So we can just dovetail that activity. How can we do that? In 14th chapter, which is the next chapter, we will hear how we perform activities in different modes: goodness, passion, or ignorance. And there we also learn how to transcend these modes and come to pure goodness. Now, in chapter 17, we will get some more knowledge about food that is in different modes, ignorance, passion, and goodness. So Krishna is suggesting that we should eat food which is in the mode of goodness, but then we also need to, purify the food in the mode of goodness and make it pure goodness. How do we do that? First, we cook food only in the mode of goodness and then offer it to Krishna. When we do that offering, then that food becomes spiritualized. And then that food becomes so spiritualized that it helps to purify our senses, our heart, our mind, our intelligence, our body. It even spiritualizes the finer brain tissues. that can help us to understand self-realization. So this is how, he is talking about unalloyed devotional service. Now, when we started this chapter 13, we learned about the material elements, the 24 material elements like earth, water, fire, air, ether, etc. And then Krishna also talked about this body being the field of activities. He talked about who is the knower of this body, which is the soul and the super soul. We have learned a lot about the glories of the super soul and how we can, achieve self-realization through unalloyed devotional service. Now, the last verse for today, which I'm taking, is number 20, where Krishna is emphasizing the difference between the soul and the super soul. You see, soul is us, that is our identity. We all are individual souls, but super soul is the Supreme Lord. He is the one who is the supreme, and there is a difference between us and him, and both are situated in the heart along with the subtle body. Subtle body is made up of mind, intelligence, and false ego. So the soul is in the category of Krishna's energy, and the super soul is the personal expansion of Krishna. That is the difference between soul and the super soul. So here we can see that both are Krishna's energies, but the living entity, that is us, living entities, we are the superior energy. Now, I'm not sure how many of you are familiar with Srimad Bhagavatam. You see these books over here. This is the summary of the Vedas, and it's called Srimad Bhagavatam, in which is the highest study, which is Bhagavad Gita is the high school level, and Bhagavatam is the graduate level study. So once we learn Bhagavad Gita, then we go on to Srimad Bhagavatam. So in Srimad Bhagavatam, which is the summary of the Vedas, it is explained how Krishna, he manifests himself as Mahavishnu, right? And then from that also, he again manifests as Garbhodakshay Vishnu. And then again, he manifests as Kshirodakshay Vishnu, and that Kshirodakshay Vishnu is the super soul that is situated in our heart. You see, so because we are in this material world and we are so conditioned with, whatever is happening in our lives, whatever association we have, whatever food we eat, all these things, are affecting our consciousness. So because of that conditioning, we are not qualified to enter the spiritual world. Let's put it that way. So here in this material world, we have this facility of this knowledge of Bhagavad Gita, from which we can understand how to come out of this material world and go to the spiritual world. Krishna says, Mamai Vamsha Jiva Loke Jiva Bhuta Sanatana. Sanatana means eternal. Mamai Amsha. Amsha means part. Krishna says, all living entities are my parts and they are eternal. We are eternal. But because we have separated ourselves from the Supreme Lord, we are in this material world and then we are suffering. You see, what kind of suffering? There are 7 kinds of sufferings: birth, disease, old age, death, miseries caused by body and mind, miseries caused by material nature, miseries caused by other living entities. So these are all the different sufferings that, we face here in this material world. But if we really want to become liberated, if we are aspiring for liberation, then Bhagavad Gita is giving us the process, a simple process, how we can stop this hard struggle for existence here and go to our original home, which is the spiritual world. Now, it makes sense that if we are spiritual beings, then obviously we belong to the spiritual world. We do not belong here in the material world. So Bhagavad Gita is showing us the way, guiding us how we can qualify ourselves first to realize ourselves that I'm the spirit soul, then realizing How is the super soul situated in our heart? What is he doing over there? How is he guiding us? And then qualify ourselves to go back to the spiritual world. We must have noticed, I remember when I was a little girl, the body was small, little girl small, right? Then gradually, teenager, and then gradually now old. So there are so many changes taking place in the body, but the soul remains the same. That is me, the true me, the real me remains the same. It's only just the body. The body grows and it changes. Scientifically, it's been proved that all the cells in the body are replaced every 7 years, which means we are getting a new body every 7 years. That's why we can see when a child is 7 and when the child is 14, doesn't look the same. It looks different, it's grown up. All the cells in the body, they change every 7 years. These are the transformations that are taking place, but the soul in the heart remains the same. So the topic for today is who. Yes, Stacy. Yes, we are seeing the changes. And when I was 15, 16, or even when I was 25, 30, I didn't have any gray hair. And now full of gray hair. These are all the changes. Vision is bad. Hearing is not so good. I'm sure very soon I'll lose my teeth also. I don't know. This is old age. We are seeing all these changes, transformations taking place. So today's topic is who is qualified to understand the super soul. You see, Krishna says those who can understand this knowledge of Bhagavad Gita, those who can understand his glories, those who can understand his energies, those who can understand the purpose of him being situated in our heart, and those who can, accept this knowledge, they will be able to qualify to understand the super soul. And the process is unalloyed devotional service. One has to perform unalloyed devotional service. We would have noticed that we are serving all the time. We are serving our body, we are serving our mind, we are serving our desires, whatever desires are popping up in our heads. We are serving family, friends, relatives, serving the boss in our jobs, serving the society, serving the country. We are serving all the time. So why not dovetail our service towards Krishna, the Supreme Lord, the Super Soul in the heart, and we will become purified. That doesn't mean we stop the other service. We still continue our duties, our prescribed duties towards, our family or whatever it may be. We still go to our job, we still work, we still do whatever is necessary to keep the body and soul together. But we should not forget the purpose of human form of life. It's only the human beings who have philosophical intelligence to understand this. If I have cats and dogs sitting over here and I speak Bhagavad Gita to them, are they going to understand? No, because they are animals. Their level of understanding is very, very limited and low. But we do have that intelligence to understand the purpose and goal of human life. So to perform unalloyed devotional service, the first step is to start chanting the holy names of the Lord. The holy names of the Lord are so powerful that they can help us in such a great way that we cannot even imagine. I've been practicing this for 35 years, and there has been a huge change in my life, huge. There's so much peace, there's so much happiness, and I'm telling you this from experience. In fact, over here, I'm going to post the links. Okay, I got the wrong. let me get the links, post them here, or let me at least type the mantra first that I'm going to chant. I usually have this ready, but today I don't. So I would appreciate if y'all can also, chant with me. It is a very, very powerful mantra which can really purify the heart, purify the mind, purify the intelligence. So please join me in chanting this Maha Mantra. I'll do one whole round, which takes about 10 minutes, and you will definitely notice the difference. In fact, I was able to copy. So let me paste here for those of you who are new. These are some of the links if you are interested. And let us start chanting. These are the beads on which I chant on a daily basis. So let's start. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare. Hare Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram Ram Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare. Hare Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare. Hare Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Ram Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare. Hare Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Ram Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare. Hare Ram Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Ram Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare. Hare Ram Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Ram Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Ram Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Ram Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Hare Hare, Hare Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Hare Hare, Hare Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Hare Hare. So that was 108 times chanting this Maha Mantra. So I'm going to end here. If anyone has any questions or comments.